Welcome to this DocQ training video. In this tutorial, we'll explain how the workflow step is used to structure complex processes by calling one workflow from another. You'll see how execution flows between parent and called workflows, how data is shared using variables, and how all actions are tracked in history throughout the process. The workflow step works like a subflow or workflow module. Instead of building everything in a single large workflow, you can split the logic into smaller workflows and trigger them from a parent workflow. Let's start with an already created workflow. From the workflow builder, we add the workflow step into the canvas, usually at the point where we want to delegate part of the process to a reusable workflow. Once it's placed, we click the step to open its configuration panel on the right side of the screen, the Step Properties panel. Inside Step Properties, the key setting is choosing the target workflow that will run. This is where reuse happens. You choose a workflow that already exists, configured and tested, and DocQ will run it automatically at this point in the parent workflow. Important concept: the parent workflow is the workflow you are building now. The called workflow is the workflow executed by this step. Before reaching a workflow step, it's important to understand how execution is determined. In DocQ, conditions are defined in earlier steps to control how the workflow progresses. Based on the evaluated conditions, the document follows a specific path, which may lead to different workflow steps. For example, a condition is evaluated in an earlier step, such as the start step or a decision step. If the condition matches, the workflow follows a specific path and reaches the workflow step A. If it does not match, it can follow an alternative path and reach a different workflow step. This design keeps a single parent workflow while branching into reusable workflows, with the execution path determined entirely by conditions defined earlier in the flow. Just like other steps, the workflow step becomes far more powerful when paired with variables. If your process captures information earlier, for example, through a web form, such as requester name, department, public or confidential classification, position, approval path, and other details, you can design the called workflow to route dynamically based on those values. Examples: the called workflow uses dynamic routing to notify the appropriate team. The called workflow builds email subjects using variables like applicant name. The called workflow selects recipients based on metadata captured in a web form. This works best when the called workflow is kept generic and reusable, relying on variables to adapt its behavior for each document. One major advantage of the workflow step is that everything remains auditable. From my queue, you can monitor current document status. Which workflow step is it in, whether it's currently executing the called workflow. When you open the document and go to the History tab, when the parent workflow reached the workflow step, when the called workflow started. Events produced by steps inside the called workflow, notifications sent, approvals, signatures, etc. When the called workflow is completed and the parent workflow continues, this is especially important for compliance, audits, and troubleshooting. And that's it. In this training, you learned how to use the workflow step in DocQ to call one workflow inside another, improve organization, reuse configurations, and build more scalable and maintainable automation. This approach helps you move from large, repetitive workflows to clean, modular designs with full tracking and auditability. Thank you for watching this DocQ training video.